Welcome to Marriage with Joy, which is the most open discussion on the internet about the positive, purposeful, powerful, pleasant aspects of living in harmony with matrimony. Marriage with Joy unabashedly discusses the most interesting questions raised by listeners. Our informed and informative panel addresses issues with thought, wit, and aplomb. Voted best of the web 2 years running. Good day, beautiful, bountiful, beloved, immortal beings, and good-looking people. You're good looking, so we're looking for and finding the good. We found good in abundance because you have tuned in consciously and conscientiously to Marriage with Joy. Notice I didn't say marriage with joy. Marriage with Joy. And you're going to meet remarkable people today, and we're going to be speaking about a remarkable being. This is a tribute session. It's a tribute to a man named Charlie Kirk, who was taken from us quite recently. I'm going to give a date because usually we don't do this, but we're going to set the date. Today's date is September the 26th. We have just entered into the vernal equinox in the Northern Hemisphere, and the year is 2025. So if you're watching this in the year of 2075 or the year of 2125, or who knows when, because time will be going by and people will be watching this millennia from now. You must know about Charlie Kirk, who was taken from us in a moment of despair, actually, on September the 10th of 2025. The genius and the reason that we're doing this show today is because he was taken from us only in body. His spirit not only lives on, it is flourishing. And that's because he, as a young man, he was 31 when he left, taken by an assassin's bullet. He was asked prior to that, what do you want your legacy to be? And on all the things he accomplished, we'll talk about some of them. What he said is, I want to be known as a man of faith. Now, faith in our world, my world, the world of acronyms, faith is a wonderful acronym. The word is F-A-I-T-H. Faith stands for finding answers in the highest. Charlie Kirk reached for the highest, lived for and with the highest, achieved connection with the highest. And he did it, in my humble estimation, and one of the reasons we're doing this show with him is because he was given the greatest gift that the good Lord can give anybody in addition to life. And that is a wife of consequence, a wife who not only shared values, but used those shared values to springboard and make them exponential in each one of their lives. I'm going to talk a little bit about what I know from Charlie Kirk, and I actually met him. I knew him. I have pictures with him taken 6 years ago. He was all of 25 then, and his movement called Turning Point, Turning Point USA, was really beginning to burgeon and blossom and almost really touching where he wanted to be. He had a great vision. Charlie Kirk himself physically was large, 6'4", maybe even 6'5". In my humble estimation, he was very much like Abraham Lincoln in the sense that he was tall, he had a presence. Abraham Lincoln was not necessarily good looking. Charlie Kirk was very attractive. However, they were both what's called autodidacts. Look that one up, kids. It will be in the show notes. Autodidact means self-taught, self-learning. Charlie Kirk dedicated himself to continuously learning. Abraham Lincoln, continuously learning. Learning to do and be good. Not as much in knowledge, even though he was extremely knowledgeable, like Abraham Lincoln. Living for wisdom. That was his goal. And that's one of the reasons why we're celebrating him today, because marriage, he understood and understands, is the essence of wisdom. What Charlie Kirk was talking about in all of his appearances in public, whether it was on a podcast, an interview, and most famously when he went to college campuses, was that he was reaching out to what he called the lost boys. And that's an interesting reference, by the way, because unless you know it, you wouldn't know it. It's a reference to the kids, the boys in Peter Pan. That's what they were called, the lost boys. Why? Because all they wanted to do was play. They wanted to stay boys. Boyz. Cognizant. Charlie Kirk said, man up, man up, which means take your place in this world, live with purpose. And the greatest exponent of that is marriage. Now, in our group, we certainly know that. We not only not argue about it, we are in favor of it, and we urge people to be involved. Charlie Kirk and his wonderful wife, Erica, lived what they spoke about. They lived a life of faith. They believed, and they lived it. They had 2 children, 1 more on the way. She's expecting soon. These were people of consequence. I'm going to speak a little bit more, and then I'm going to ask Lori to speak, and then wonderful Maura. Diana's not able to be with us today. I want to use the fact that Charlie was very much involved with politics. However, his politics were secondarily involved in his life. His life was faith. Marriage was the embodiment of that faith. Politics carried along because conservatism, i.e., the ability to conserve that which we have that is positive, purposeful, powerful, and pleasant, as he saw it and as he learned and studied, here in the United States of America, a unique situation in the history of the world. Unique. Mm-hmm. Charlie Kirk was a devoted student of 2 people who I am close to in my politics as well, and as a student. Actually, it was 3 people. One of them is somebody I respect very much. His name is Dennis Prager. Dennis Prager, again, everything will be in the show notes. Dennis Prager, at this moment, is not able to get up and be mobile, and therefore he was not at Charlie Kirk's memorial. Because unfortunately, back in November of 2024, Dennis Prager, also a very large man, he's 6'4", I think 6'5", and a little bulky also. Very amazing, fascinating, remarkable being who's been articulate for the ideas of conservatism, marriage, living a purposeful life for more than a half a century. He and I are same age, 76, chronologically. Dennis Prager, unfortunately, fell down in November 2024 in such a way that a disc almost severed his spinal cord. It didn't, but it left him almost partially paralyzed and unable to communicate. He can't breathe except on a machine. Anyway, as you'll see in the show notes, there is a 3 or 4 minute dedication that he's able to speak very haltingly, very passionately about his relationship with Charlie Kirk. Charlie Kirk was devoted to Dennis Prager and his PragerU. He learned his faith from the good Lord. He learned to use his faith in the political arena from Dennis Prager. And he also learned it from a man named Andrew Breitbart. Andrew Breitbart was the godfather of all conservatism in the United States. And as I think 18 or 19-year-old, Andrew had already passed away, but the people who took over Breitbart offered Charlie Kirk, please come and work with us. They knew right away he was one of the greatest beings. His energy was so powerful, and again, in a positive, serving manner. He decided, no, he wanted to begin his own. And he also studied the works of David Horowitz. David Horowitz in the Freedom Center is really the source for any freedom-loving being throughout the world, especially the United States of America. And it was at Freedom Center meeting in Palm Beach, Florida, that Ben Shapiro, who is currently also very one of the greatest spokespeople for living faith and good politics and good conservatism, met Charlie Kirk. And he remarked at that point, seeing this 19-year-old at this convention of conservative leaders, that Charlie Kirk, as he said, this man will be the head of the RNC one day.
Hmm.
As he learned more about Charlie and met him over the years, he revised that and said he'll be president. The power of Charlie Kirk in his ability to be open, forthright, caring, dedicated as a servant of the Lord was manifested when he met, interviewed, dated, and won the hand of his now wife, Erica. And together, their energies did what we all speak about in life. In Genesis, in the beginning of the Bible, it talks that God made male and female. If you read the commentaries, God made one being, male and female. I mean, it's hard to imagine even talk about these things. The male was facing one way, the female the other way. Well, that's okay. They're two beings. They couldn't communicate. God split them when and Adam lay down to sleep. And now you had two beings who, in the best of times, could communicate.
Hmm.
That's, of course, for us, we've talked about it many times, the essence of marriage, the ability to communicate. So with this, I'm going to step back. Again, this is a tribute to Charlie Kirk. Charlie is here with us now and will always be. That can never be taken away of. We miss his physical presence desperately. I personally am using my time, my mind, my faith to be able to work in the arena that he helped build.
Hmm.
What I'd like to do now is ask our delightful, wonderful wife expert, is our dear friend Lori McDermott, to speak about what she knows from her heart and her being about Charlie Kirk. Wonderful,
Wow.
please.
So yeah, so he grew up in Mount Prosper, right next to me in Mount Prospect. I grew up in Mount Prospect. He was next to me in Arlington Heights.
Arlington Heights.
Way younger than me.
Our worldwide audience, that's in a place called Illinois.
Yep, right in Chicago.
States in the United States of America, but he managed to blossom through it all.
Right, in like a humble beginnings, super humble. I mean, he was out looking for money for all kinds of people and begging for. He asked a couple to give him, $50,000, and they said, "We'll give you 25,000 if you raise the other 25." 2 days later, he raised it and called them and said, "Hey, I got this," and they were blown away. And they've been giving him money ever since. So what I love about him is he came from the humble beginnings. Like, he grew up in the town next to me, and way younger. I'm way older, but what I liked about him is it was his faith. And I saw him, I've been watching him for years, and he was kind of, awkward in the beginning, but he always had a purpose. And I felt like it was a drive, and it was a high-speed train, and there was no reason he was going to stop. And, some of his closest friends have said, he never relaxed. Like, some people sit around and have talks and conversation. He always was on a mission. And if he was sitting with you, there was a mission. And it wasn't until people got him on an airplane and he was going somewhere where he kind of was like, he's stuck with people for a few hours, where they finally could see who he really was. And he's the same guy he was in and out of those moments. But one of the things, so we're talking about what we liked about him. One of the things that I've heard, which obviously I didn't know much about his wife. She's 5 years older than him, which means men in general are always more immature. And the fact that he was so mature that he caught this lady. She wanted to work for him, and he goes, "No, I want to date you." And his coworker was like, "No." So anyway, it worked out, and they ended up being together, obviously. But the two of them had this phrase they would always say. They would say, "Let's make heaven crowded." to me, that is just incredible. The other thing I liked about him, that he would respond to people, like in his one of his guys asked what they were talking, and one of his guys said, "We're going to do this. Maybe we should just tell our customer this." And Charlie responded right away, "We don't lie."
I love you, Charlie.
And I'm like,
Right.
like to stand up, and like most of his employees, I mean, there was some people he let go, but the majority of them understood, like, if you're going to work here, this is what's expected of you. There's no like, oh, maybe we'll do this, right? No, this is the way it is. Like right now I'm in Pennsylvania. People here seem to go to jail all the time. Pennsylvania has the highest number of incarcerated citizens out of any state. Where in California, you murder someone, they're like, it's okay, come back in a month, right? So it's different. Charlie had standards and, patterns and ethics and morals, and he put that on his employees without a question. He didn't waver from it. And from some of the things I've learned about him, because I like to study people, he actually had an addiction to porn for a while, and he got over it. And he said, it's possible. I'm not perfect. And he never will say to anyone that you have to be perfect. It's like, well, what do I get out of that? We're always growing and we're always changing. And he lived that way. He learned and he loved and he learned and he loved. And he got to a place where it was like his work is almost done, right? He reached a plateau, kind of like my dad. My dad had a conversation with my mother the night he died and said to her, I'm good. We've done everything. I feel I'm so comfortable. And that night he went to sleep and didn't wake up. Right. And it was like Charlie had everything he's wanted. He got, what's next? Right. He was going to Japan to get them in. That didn't go well, but he got Korea. They're all into it. But that kind of thing. And so for me, I won't talk about the negative stuff later. We'll get into that. But let me see. I liked him because he was smart. Sometimes I'd hear him talk and I'm like, sometimes I can't remember what day it is. And he would spit off things about people that I'm like, how do you remember that? Right? Like Bible verses. I don't want to quote them because I'll say it backwards, right? He was brilliant. For a man that didn't go to college, he was brilliant. And hearing all those things online, which I don't want to go there, who say the opposite, it's like, do you not, it's like our job as people is to study and learn. And if you hear something over here going, oh no, this is this, and you're like, I don't know, have that conversation and then research it yourself and find out the truth, right? Like one of my girls on my...
Why not interrupt for a moment?
Oh yeah, go ahead. I could talk for hours.
No, this is so, again, Dennis Prager, who is a remarkable human being, highly educated, remarkably capable of addressing audiences throughout the world, and he has done. Spoke at Oxford, by the way, as did Charlie. Charlie, the man who didn't go to college, spoke at Oxford Union, Oxford, one of the oldest universities in the world, and debated about faith in Oxford. But Dennis Prager said of Charlie, one of the most remarkable beings he's ever met, because he's able to learn things, retain, process, come back, and explain in his way as a 30-year-old, speaking to other college kids. Okay, so they were in their 20s. The point is, he was able to utilize a large body of information, find the juice, drink it, internalize it, give back over the most beautiful kernel. And that touched people. By the millions, we're finding out. By the millions. You don't have to agree with everything he said. That's not the way of life. The way of life is challenge. That's what he was doing. Remember the 3 words he put up on wherever he went on his tent? Prove me wrong. He wanted debate. Hello? He wasn't shying away saying, no, this is what I believe and go away. On the contrary, if you really believe and you have faith, then you live it. So I wanted to make sure that everybody understands some of the brightest people in the world looked at Charlie Kirk and said, this man's amazing. Nothing short of amazing. Another story you have, Lori, you would like to share?
Hold on. I have a really big story. Last night, so I'm a big Godwink person, like when something happens. So I'm at Penn State right now, and the Oregon game is this weekend, and he loved Oregon. So it's Oregon Ducks against Penn State. So Turning Point USA is here, and all week long I've been like, I gotta reach out to them. I just want to see where they are, say hello, tell them I'm sorry. And so I've just put it off. Last night at 8:00, my husband gets a text saying, oh, they're giving away 5,000 t-shirts that say freedom on that at the game tomorrow. I'm like, send it to me. He sends it to me. There's no details. Where, when, how, who, what? I'm like, I want to be in line. And then again, I'm like, okay, this is a liberal college. There may not be no one there. So like, I still want to know where it is, because if I miss it, I won't get anything. And they'll go home with all these shirts when I want a whole bunch. So I was supposed to go with my husband someplace. And I said, he wanted me there for sure by 12. And I said, I will get there as soon as I can. But what happened was, I was like, I need to find out where this is. And I sat down on my computer and I emailed and texted and I reached out to PR people at the school, emailed people. I went down rabbit holes looking for this. Then I even subscribed to some goofy thing where I can send a text to a senator who said he was going to be there. And I don't know what happened. He didn't respond to me either. And I was so frustrated. And then my son showed up and I talked to him, and then my dog was barking. And I said, all right, I'm going to go to the shop. So I walked to the shop. I get into the shop. I tie up the dog. I walk around the counter. I give my husband a hug. Hadn't said a word. No one has talked to me. I look across at two people standing there, a man and a woman, older man, younger girl, and they're talking about what to order. And she looks ahead and she goes, oh, sir, were you at the Charlie Kirk Memorial? And my husband goes, yeah. And she goes, oh, I'm the president of Turning Point here at Penn State.
Oh my God.
This is what I did. I went, oh my God. And I started to cry. I can cry now. And I went around, I gave her a hug, and I'm like, you don't understand how many hours I was trying to find anyone. And you're like the most important person I could find. And you're standing here at midnight?
Yes. Yeah.
What are you doing here?
The good Lord sent them.
Yeah.
See, this is also part of Charlie's life.
Right?
Charlie understood that
amazing.
once you walk your talk and live it, then the Lord is here to provide the opportunities. May I share with both of you, as I like to do? You know, I love words and such. So I created an acronym for Charlie, for his name. Can I share it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Charlie, CHARLIE, stands for creating hope, awakening resilient, loving, inspired energy.
I like that. Beautiful.
Isn't that Charlie Kirk?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'd like to shift a little bit to Maura. Maura, you had a more tangential relationship with Charlie in the sense that Lori was steeped.
Yes.
I was steeped. By the way, my wife also. My wife was on the memorial that day. She found the television that she could sit and watch. It was because it was riveting, because it was real. Laura, you came from a different position of finding out about Charlie. Tell us what you're thinking vis-a-vis.
I could tell you, I'm so glad, Lori, both of you, what a way of setting up the spirit of today's call and message and the power and the energy from that spirit. Yes, you're right. Mine is more tangential. I will tell you, last week, I was up in Maine and I was busy. I was volunteering. I was visiting with our son and daughter-in-law. I was not in a position or a place where I could watch TV or I could, normally every day I find places to be quiet. Are you getting back?
Yeah, well, hold on one moment. We're having a little technical issues. I want to repeat something you just said.
Okay.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
Uh-oh. All right, go ahead. Say it. Because, oh, wait, is it paused? No, I think we're still live.
I could just give you this. I'm so glad, Lori, that you led, because I knew when we were getting the texts that you were right in the thick of it, not only informationally, but on so many other levels. And that's what's so important about this whole podcast. We're not just giving people information, we're giving them something of their soul and their
Hope.
spirit and their heart.
Hope.
Absolutely.
We're giving them hope.
You are the one to lead. Now, hopefully our leader will come back.
He'll be back. I
But
can't do this stuff without him.
thank you for all you shared. And I didn't realize you grew. First of all, I didn't even know he came from Chicago.
I know. I didn't either. Until after
Hi,
he passed.
so you two are still on all that time, right?
Yes, and we were discussing Charlie without going into anything new.
Okay, I want to play back something to you that I heard, and I hope you're going to correct me. I heard that you were in Maine. You ready for this? Visiting your son and daughter-in-law.
You knew I made him my daughter and son-in-law. Oh, that's so cute.
Wait a minute, you did say that.
I'll have to tell him. He'll love it. She's my favorite daughter. He's my favorite son-in-law. But that's so cute. Wait till I tell him that.
I said, wow, you've been hiding this other child from us all this time. This is wonderful.
That's so cute. But I have to tell you, I don't see him that often. I love him dearly.
Well, there's no reason you shouldn't, but I'm just saying. By the way, that is also a Charlie Kirk situation vis-a-vis what marriage is about. And again, I'm walking into your world, wonderful Lori. The ability for people to be married and maintain who they are, and at the same time create a persona that is a oneness of both of them, it's a skill that comes by working on it, but the work is showing the other person that I care by your words, your thoughts, and your deeds. And I know this is what Charlie Kirk spoke about. Others will call it preach, but he spoke about this and he acted that way. He lived that way. So when you do that, what are you doing? You're showing the lost boys, because he was telling young men, if you continue on the path that you're on, you will be a boy. You will be lost. There is an alternative. And I am speaking as a person older than both of you, and certainly older than Charlie Kirk, certainly older than all the people he spoke about. There's no question. There was nobody, no one other person in the United States of America that I know that had the attention of billions of young people. Whether they agreed or not, that's not the point. Something was happening. He was delivering a message, much like, why am I blanking out on his name? The Billy Graham.
Yeah.
It was a Billy Graham type of feeling, of passion, dedicated to love, dedicated to service. First of all, that's what America was built on. And that's one of the things he talked about in his political aspect. It was also the essence of faith. Faith is about service. You're here to be a servant, to not beat other people over the head and say, you got to believe, or you got to know this, or else you're going to go there. Service. So we interrupted you, but you were in Maine visiting with your son, your daughter, whoever they are, nice married people.
Nice people.
And
so I was not in the thick of things, or as I should say it this way, I was not experiencing all of this in the moment when it happened. But I'll give you and the listeners today a different perspective, which I hope will contribute something to the whole. Obviously, Charlie was not of my demo, but I am always, my entire life, I have been a watcher and observer of society, values, government, spirituality, changing value systems, what's good, what's not good, what's acceptable, what isn't. Couple of things I want to say about this young man. He was a breakout and a breakthrough personality. And when I tell you this, I'm not just saying it as a statement. This is what I see over the course of time. I know, Barry, you mentioned Abe Lincoln. I could think, on a larger scale like that, you could think of somebody like an MLK. What he did, I'm going to use this. I went on last night. I wanted to know what other people were saying, but this was one quote that I read. A girl, I believe, wrote, "Our hearts are broken. Charlie gave us, ready? A platform, a voice in the world that often tried to shame us." I don't know why, but I was assuming it was a girl who wrote it. "He changed my life since I first heard him in 2019 and the trajectory of this country." Now, that's exactly how I saw him. There were several other things. When I heard that he was shot, I was immediately going to look. I thought, oh my gosh, shocking, right? You could look at Abe Lincoln. You could look at Kennedy. You could look at MLK. But here was my thought. I don't think I ever spent so much time re-listening to, rehearing, zoning in, and really absorbing Charlie's words and ideas and ideals until after he died. Now, remember in the Old Testament when Joseph, who was sold into slavery, he was the boy of promise, sold into slavery by his brothers. He ends up in jail, all these things. And then before you know it, he's number 2 in the whole kingdom. And his brothers need to come to him. They thought he was dead. And he said this, and it was like the first thing that came to mind. He said, "You meant to harm me, but God used your evil for good." With that in mind, this is what I want to say. People suffered. I saw people so emotionally invested in this, even people who said they never met him. There were people that didn't even know who he was. Their hearts were so touched by this. This man and his aura, his presence, his spirit, his energy, whatever you want to call it, I'm going to say already larger in death than it was in life. And you talk about an influence that's going to so far exceed anything he imagined. I read that later on, people were saying, oh, he could have had a future in the presidency. Even as I watched his casket was being picked up by Air Force Two, do you know I had visions back to JFK putting the casket on Air Force One, and I could see it was like you could almost foretell things. It was almost like watching a movie of the past, but it was happening now. Whatever was meant by cutting off this young man's life had such an opposite effect. Whatever he was doing to break through was multiplied exponentially, and not just here in our country, but abroad. The other thing, too, when I want to say that he was a breakthrough and a breakout personality, it's so true. I have watched 40, 50 years. How long has it been? Where men, fathers, husbands, adults, marriage, it has all been undermined, marginalized, mocked, and of no import in a current society. What he did was so bold and so audacious and so awesome. He took something that, and this is really what it was, he touched on something of truth in people's hearts and souls. And when he spoke, he caused his words to resonate the truth that was already buried in many people. But it was so under so much social programming and so much toxic thought and ideas. He gave all these people a chance to grow. It was almost like putting a seed in the ground, and overnight, everybody came to life. And so those were some of my thoughts. But as sad as, one more thing I'm going to add, and then I'll give it back to you guys. The thing that I picked up in watching a lot of these videos, even as his wife was doing them and they were talking back and forth, it was as if, and right to one of his last interviews, when he was asked, how does he want to be remembered? Who at that age is ever contemplating that question? Few, if any. I mean, I know I'm one of them, but whoever does, right? They may do it when they're 75. it was as if his life was meant. I don't want to say meant. He, as somewhere on the inside, either he knew his life was going to be short, he accomplished what he needed to, and everything he had to do was done and completed, only to be replicated over and over and over again. Had that man lived only in our country and died only in our country, I don't think he would have had the universal exposure and influence that he ended up having by being cut off so young, which takes a tragic situation and turns it into something far, far greater than even Charlie or Turning Point or any of these people, including a Dennis Prager, could have ever imagined. So those are my feelings.
I want to first of all say huge thank you to you and Maura. And Maura, you emphasized something that Lori mentioned, that he completed something. It was if it was finished. It was done. So I will do two things. I'm going to say to you a fun quote, and then I'm gonna quote Bible. I think you'll appreciate this a lot. And it comes from the book called Ecclesiastes. What a great name, huh? I don't think 1 out of 7,000 can spell it right. Anyway, Ecclesiastes, you can look this up. It's chapter 7, verse 1. So I'll tell it to you in English. I can say it in the original. I'll tell you to in English. Let me just I'll say it in Hebrew so I can translate it. And the sentence is the following. Better is a good name than fine perfume, and better is the day of death than the day of birth. So what does that mean? So I think everybody can understand the idea of a good name. A good name, you can't buy it. I mean, we're all discussing wonderful things. You can't buy a good name. Here's the part of the sentence that gets me is when people are born, everybody goes, yay, baby boy, baby girl, healthy. Wow, we're all celebrating, right? And comes the day of death, most people, what do? Cry, mourn. And say, here you have a man who achieved greatness in name, and the day of his passing is remembered and is more powerful than the day he was born.
Mm-hmm. Lucky.
He was the sentence in the Bible.
Yep.
Now speaking of Oregon, there's a famous phrase. Oregon used to have a lot of trees and a lot of lumber and logging and such. They probably still do. It's a famous line is, you can't tell the height of a tree until it's fallen. Do you know that? In other words, you go to
God, that's a great quote.
Wow.
You're walking and you got, this thing that's massive. You're going to go with the buzzsaw. They don't cut down saplings. They cut a big thing. But you don't know how big it is until it's fallen.
Wow.
Isn't that a wow?
Who said that?
The words of wisdom.
The lumber people in Oregon said it, right?
Yeah.
That is profound.
So I thought you'd like that. By the way, Charlie also loved the Chicago Cubs in terms of sports. By the way, he was a great athlete when he was a kid. He was a human being. And here's for me, what I love when I was consuming Charlie Kirk. I met him personally 6 years ago. I was consuming him even a couple of years before that because I'm a Dennis Prager devotee and a Breitbart and David Horowitz. So all these people were the soup that he was drinking and immersed in anyway. So I knew of him. And as I said, I heard him when I met him that particular day. It was a Sunday afternoon, and it was in Brentwood. He was speaking at a small gathering. And I can tell you, he owned the room. And the people in the room were pretty savvy people. Obviously, everybody older than him. He was 25 at the time. Got up there and he spoke, and he owned it. Because
definitely.
He spoke naturally. He spoke like a human being. here's a couple of things that I seen that really stuck or do stick. Remember, he was addressing lost boys. He spoke about that a lot. The Peter Pan reference. And the ability for Charlie to say to the audience he was speaking with, men, you want to be a boy? You're going to be a loser. I mean, I'm cutting it short, but he used that in a few sentences. The key to living is to be a leader. In your marriage, be a leader. It doesn't mean be a dictator. That your wife is your servant. Be the leader. When you do that, what are you offering? As he said, these two words, I love it: security and stability. That's what a wife needs and demands, and you should be giving security and stability. We're talking about a 30-year-old, a 31-year-old. And you're right, Maura. How many people ever even think about death? And by the way, I can attest to you, 75-year-old people don't do it regularly. I am a strange being. I speak about these things. Matter of fact, I'm going to tell you inside baseball story today. After our session, I'm doing an interview for my podcast, The Joy of Living, with a woman whose expertise is in death. And guess what? She's over 34. And I've read some of her essays already. She said she's been involved in life issues, as she calls it, since she was 19. I mean, young, interesting young people are fast, interesting. But the point for Charlie was, he would say, be a leader, deliver security and stability for the purpose, here's the word, he loved the P word, the purpose of doing good. The success formula for life is very simple: to be good and to do good. That's the success formula for life. That's Charlie Kirk. Erica is going to be challenged with raising 3 children, 2 that she has now that are outside, 1 more expected, and to run an organization, and to live with the shadow of her husband. But God gave her this message to carry on. And Charlie knew that she is a direct gift from the good Lord. That's a wonderful thing for a husband to know. I can tell you on a very personal level, but we have thousands of people listening. I look at my wife, not all the time, sometimes though. Last night happened to be one. And I look at her and I say to myself, I tell her, but she doesn't like to listen, what a gift. And I am privileged. And this person is called my wife, and she loves me. She loves doing things for me. I tears of happiness. I can't express myself. And when I told her, when I do, she says, shut up. However, it's so beautiful. And we married 47 years, thank God. So we only have a few more minutes. I'd like, Lori, if you'd be so kind, come back in and tell us some ideas either about Charlie or Charlie things that you would like to keep in mind and use for yourself and your family and for your work as the wife expert.
Great question. One of the things that years ago I had always planned on working with him. I have a book coming out in 2 months, and I know it's great. Title's amazing. But I had planned on getting that rolling and then kind of tying in, because I have this whole children's program, like young adult. And I thought it would be great to introduce that once the book is done. And I've kind of got my new wife experts running my program. I could jump over and work on this other thing. And I was going to do it with him because he already has the college markets down and be a part of Turning Point. And then when he died, I was like, oh, there you go. I mean, that was a big chunk of my future that I hadn't really talked about, but I just planned on that. And I thought, okay, right. So connecting with Turning Point for me is a big deal now, because I still believe I can offer those services in doing relationship talks, young adults. I mean, when I'm at the shop here, kids come in and, with girlfriends are sad or something, I catch that. I can see their face. I'm like, you okay? And the next thing you know, we're talking about things. So I want to continue to do that. And when I met the lady yesterday, she goes, oh, you're a speaker? She goes, yeah, let's talk. I'm looking for speakers to come here. And I'm like, absolutely. So that's with the death of one rises many, right? And so what I liked most about him was his commitments to his wife. And like he said, yeah, there's all these other distractions. I'm a dude, right? Of course, we're always going to have that. However, I've chosen my path. It's like once you get married, it's over. You don't do that anymore. And I will carry on that. And I love how he spoke. I saw a video that's my favorite video. I've been passing it to my wives for a long time to give to their sons. And it's about, when you go on a date, what do you say? Oh, I'm interested in that. I don't know if that's the video you saw, Barry, but it sounds like it's a different one.
Yes.
So I'd love to see that. But that to me is powerful, right? Because he says up there, lead her. Where are we going? We're going here. Let's go. Right? And that's what women need. And men don't know that today. I call it the pussification of men. And someone told me that. And it has to stop. We're raising weak men because our husbands, their parents left, their dads left, and they weren't raised by a man. So nobody was out there telling you how to be a man. And that was missing. So when this guy was telling people how to be a man, I'm like, oh, shoot, if I got a hold of him, I could send him all kinds of people who don't know. They think they know, but they're doing it wrong. And, nobody, and I hate to say that because now I'm judging, right? I'm telling someone they're doing it wrong, but they're not being the man that women need them to be. And for all those women libertarians out there who are like, but I don't need a man. I can do it on my own. That's just that. We're going to be equal partners. Those women are very lonely. They don't hook up with a man because that doesn't work. There's this hierarchy. There can only be one leader. And if it's the woman, okay, that man knows he's got to step down, but they made that agreement. Most of the time, you got the man on top. Don't take that sexually, but on top, right? So the point is, that's how the world has worked. And we want to change it. And it's like, does it work? Right? No, it doesn't. Lots of failures. So finding that path again is big.
Yay, Lori Mora.
I was almost going to say, it was funny. It was in regard to that very same clip. Something I heard him say, where I said earlier, when he spoke, he gave voice to things that were already existing inside young people and specifically young men. Barry, you said that this is what women want and need. True. They want a strong man who is purposed and purposeful. But there was another word. They are attracted to it. When I heard him say that, I don't know whether he said it outright or I was like, yes. Because at the moment he said, it was like truth came right out of his body. And I could see it going into all these guys, these people that were listening, including the women in the audience. Like, yes, you know what it is? It's like we're designed that way. You want to attract a great woman, then you be a great man. And he actually said they will be attracted to it. When women see a strong man, a man of character, a man of purpose, a strong woman is attracted to that.
Yes.
And that is what, I know we're kind of concluding now, but you want to talk about a good marriage. You want to have a good marriage as a man. You be the strong man, and I'm not meaning a controller. You be that strong man, that purposed man, that man of integrity, the man of the good name, and you will find the best wife who will be right there at your side saying, I'm going with you. So, thank you, Charlie.
Right?
There is no better fitting tribute to Charlie Kirk and Erica and their progeny, who will not know him, unfortunately. They will know him by his fruits, which is also very biblical. They will know him, as you mentioned, Lori, like a sunflower. I happen to be a big fan of sunflowers. I mean, who doesn't like a sunflower, right? So how many seeds do you think there are in a regular sunflower, approximately? A lot, right? About 1,000, maybe 1,200. So think about it. When you put a sunflower seed in the ground and it grows and it sprouts, it's going to yield 1,000-fold. I mean, how biblical is that?
Yeah.
So this is the seeds that Charlie Kirk sowed.
Mm.
These are the seeds that will be sprouting throughout the United States. And as you mentioned, Lori, he had just come back actually from being overseas in Asia, in South Korea and in Japan,
Mhm.
speaking about the gospel, speaking
They
about,
prayed over him in Korea. They
yes,
sang to him in Korea.
and throughout the world. Throughout the world, the name, remember, look it up, Ecclesiastes chapter 7, verse 1. A good name is more valuable than anything, perfume, oil, it doesn't matter. In the day of death, greater than the day of birth. Because when he was born, he was just, okay, another baby.
Mhm.
He lived a life of faith. He lived in truth. Truth also stands for, oh,
What happened?
I'm just thinking
Oh.
about him. And I'm crying because I miss him. So we are blessed to have video. The end of in his last year of life, he did something that also is causing a tectonic shift in the consciousness of humans, especially in the United States. He spoke about keeping a Sabbath. And as you mentioned, Lori, there are a few people that ever met him that didn't use the term energy, moving, never stopping. That was him in everything he did. He took upon himself and for Erica to observe a Sabbath from Friday night through Saturday night. They had no interaction with the outside world. If you texted him, called him, and he said, never answered him. Everything was devoted to the family, to thinking, to being, to stopping. And he said, look, God said so. He said, I created the world in 6 days and rest on the seventh day. If God can do it, I can do it. And he began speaking about that, which gives great context to everyone to understand that motion is absolutely wonderful. Emotion can be beautiful. Rest and rejuvenation are essential to the human condition, especially if you want to grow in your marriage. To the ability to have time together, potentially speak to each other or just hold hands or just be. The ability to talk about a Sabbath. So I know that of all the contributions he's made, and this came in the last year or two of his life, one of the greatest is going to be this idea, this use of the time that was God given. That's what he said. Hello, I'm only telling you what God did, what God says. Why not? It works. It worked for him to rejuvenate the being. So I want to say again a very special thank you to you, Lori. And we didn't know about your book. We didn't know about your plans to go forward with doing something for the people in the Turning Point USA world. That's delicious. That's wonderful. And more for you to having visited your son and daughter-in-law.
Wait till I tell them.
As I said, I think it speaks volumes about who they are. That's not just slip of the tongue. That is a mindset. It's a wonderful attribution and accolade to be able to embrace a family like that. It's really something. And again, let's say for Lori as well, the fact that you're in Pennsylvania. Where is it? The name of the place?
Penn State, where the football team is. State College, Pennsylvania.
State College. It's a city or a town, right? State
It's
College.
a teeny cow town,
Okay.
middle of nowhere,
Okay.
surrounded by nothing.
Okay, wait a minute. But that's where you are. And normally they live in Southern California by the water. So you can't get much more different in terms of place and time.
Everything, yeah.
The genius of Lori and her husband and her family is that you carry the love wherever you are. That was Charlie. Charlie was above time and space. He proved it. He lived it.
Mm-hmm.
It's easy to say of somebody, he gave his all. Well, he did. And we are the better for it. So we thank everybody for listening. We urge everybody to share this. In the show notes, there'll be some number of links and such like that. The link that Dennis Prager made, I urge everybody to watch it. It's somewhat chilling to see Dennis in his current state, much like, remember Christopher Reeve?
Yes.
Yeah.
He looks like Christopher Reeve in this video. And he speaks haltingly. He speaks so lovingly of Charlie, because again, Charlie looked at Dennis as his mentor. He was.
Mm-hmm.
And what Prager University is doing, they make 5-minute videos. And Lori, that's how you and I met from Prager's show, remember?
Mm-hmm.
So
That's right.
the influence on people it's the sunflower effect. It keeps growing and growing. It cannot be stopped. That bullet created what I call a tsunami of goodness.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
It can't be stopped because it's built in good. It's purposeful. So my wish for all of us is to utilize and emulate as much as we are able and use your all to live a purposeful life, be a leader, and to embrace the life of Charlie Kirk, Erica, their children, and everybody they touched. So with your permission, wonderful ladies, let's do a hug and we'll do a blessing. Remember, hug stands for heartfelt, unlimited giving. You ready?
Mm-hmm.
1, 2, 3. And our blessing, the wonderful Maura, fabulous Lori, wonderful Diane, and the ambassador of joy is to go forth, live exuberantly, spread the seeds of joy, happiness, peace, and love. Go mad. Go make a difference. Welcome to Marriage with Joy, which is the most open discussion on the internet about the positive, purposeful, powerful, pleasant aspects of living in harmony with matrimony. Marriage with Joy unabashedly discusses the most interesting questions raised by listeners. Our informed and informative panel addresses issues with thought, wit, and aplomb. Voted best of the web 2 years running.